Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad FAKHRI bin Muhammad Nur. Uh, so our group can present about prohibition activities in Islamic marketing based on Ihtikar, Ihtikar, corruption and Hilah activities. So introduction. Islam is not only a religion but also a complete way of life. Islamic law or Sharia is divided to ibadah or devotional acts, muamalat or transaction, munakahat or marriage, and jinayat or criminal. The meaning of Sharia, literal meaning, a clear path to be followed and observed. This is the meaning of Sharia. And the Islamic Sharia has constantly sought to achieve fairness, trust and transparency in all financial and business transactions, while emphasizing socio-economic development and financial inclusion. Okay, so we go to the next slide. Allah Almighty is supreme power to declare halal and haram about a dealing or usage of anything among human beings. So, what is the meaning of halal and haram? Halal or lawful is the commodities of the dealing that are allowed by Islamic law or Sharia, and haram or unlawful, those are forbidden by Islamic law or Sharia. Further, the law of halal and haram plays a vital role in determining Muslim individual behavior in daily routine matter and establishing justice and stability in the whole society. Specifically, the operation of this law great and far-reaching effect in the economic sphere of a society. Therefore, Sharia has present a detailed code of free rule concerning halal and haram form about commodity, source of earning, head of spending, as well as right and wrong economic dealing on ethical basis. We can compare the behavior of conventional consumer behavior to an Islamic consumer's behavior with paradigm of halal and haram. Okay, so the present include about Ihtikar, corruption and Hilah activities, as I have explained before.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ammar Thaqif bin Muhammad ROZANI. I will present about prohibition activities in Islamic marketing based on ihtikar. The activity of hiding and hoarding goods is no longer unfamiliar in business. Such cases occur in factory, small and large supermarkets. The items that are often hidden are daily necessities such as raw material, salt, sugar, and so on. In the content of Islamic marketing, this activity is called ihtikar. The word ihtikar comes from the Arabic word haraka. There are two meanings of haroka. First, az-zulam, which means to persecute. And second, isa al-mu'asharah, which means to run the association. Ihtikar, according to etymology or language, is the act of hoarding, collecting goods, and even a place to hoard. The next meaning of ihtikar in terms of terminology is to hold or hoard goods, especially necessities or basic necessities of society by raising and waiting for the price increase to multiply in the market with the intention of profiting from the result of such activities. The scholars also express their views on the meaning of ihtikar. First, Imam Al-Ghazali stated the definition of ihtikar as storage of goods by sellers to wait for the price increase and sell while the price of the goods is soaring. Second, according to Imam An-Nawawi, the monopoly of goods or ihtikar is to buy goods when the price of the goods is high but not yet to be marketed, but hidden the goods so that they can be sold at a higher price. Next, scholars of the Maliki define ihtikar as storage of goods by the entrepreneur, whether it is food, clothing, and all goods that damage the market. Many other scholars gave their views, and all the views were expressed stating the same thing, which is storing goods and selling when prices rise. Yet, in their opinion, there are differences as to the type of goods stored. Imam Ash-Shawkani and the scholars of the Maliki school did not detail what kind of goods were stored. Instead, Imam Al-Ghazali specialized ihtikar on food item. The scholars of fiqh said ihtikar as an act that is cursed and forbidden in Islam. Allah has said in the Quran, A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu la tuhillu sya'airallah wala syahrul haram wala hadyi wala qalaid wala aminal baital haram yabtaghuna fadlan min rabbihim wa ridwana. وَإِذَا حَلَلْتُمْ فَاصْطَادُوا وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ أَنْ صَدُّوكُمْ عَنِ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ أَنْ تَعْتَدُوا وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. صدق الله العظيم. O who you have believed, do not violate the right of Allah or the sanctity of the sacred month or neglect the marking of the sacrificial animals and garlanding them, or violate the safety of those coming to the sacred house seeking bounty from their Lord and His approval. But when you come out of Ihram, then you may hunt, and do not let the hatred of a people for having obstructed you from Al-Masjid Al-Haram lead you to transgress, and cooperate in righteousness and pity, but do not cooperate in sin and aggression, and fear Allah. Indeed, Allah is served in penalty. Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 2. Apart from the dividends from the Quran, there are many hadiths that forbid human beings to perform ihtikar. For example, an Sa'id bin al-Musayyab, muhaddith an Ma'maran qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, man ihtakara fahuwa khati. The meaning, from Sa'id bin Musayyab, he narrated that Ma'mar, he said, the messenger of Allah, may peace be upon him, said, whoever accumulates goods, then he sins. Hadith narrated by Muslim. The verse from Quran shows about persecuting both human beings and innocent animal. In fact, Ihtikar is also one of the persecutions committed in business. The act of persecuting the law is haram in the sight of Allah. So, ihtikar is also convicted to the law as haram by Islam. The above hadiths have explained very clearly and in detail about ihtikar. It also strengthens the argument of scholars and jurists that ihtikar is convicted as illegal to be implemented in business transaction. According to the scholars of fiqh, ihtikar that is forbidden is when the three categories occur. First, the items that are hidden and stored exceed the needs of a family for 1 year. Second, the goods want to be sold only when the price of the goods sold and the desire of the people to buy it desperately and cause them to pay at a high price. And third, the hidden items are the daily needs of the people such as raw materials, food, and others. Another method of banning ihtikar is by way of an agreement between the traders to sell their goods at a higher price than the market price. The wisdoms and benefits that can be taken from the prohibition of ihtikar acts are, among them can reduce the burden of society, especially those consisting of low and middle income groups, to get their daily needs easily. Apart of that, the ban on ihtikar allows the cost of living of a family to be reduced. As the cost of living increases, people will feel pressured to move on and may result in criminal activity such as snatching, robbing, stealing, and so on. Next, it educates traders and sellers not to be selfish and do not care about the rights of the people as buyers. They should be fair and tolerant of fellow human beings because human beings cannot control the will of other human beings at will. Innat tujar yub'athuna yawmal qiyamati fujara illa manittaqallah wa barra wa sadaqa. The meaning, indeed, the merchants are resurrected on the day of judgment as bad people, except those who are pious, do good and true. That's all from me.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad LUQMAN SYAHMI bin ABDUL KAHAR. Number ID 2019252818. Okay then. Now I would like to share with you the slide about the topic corruption. Okay, first thing first, we go through to the outline of the topic that we want to know what is corruption, then the type of corruption, causes of corruption, and the last is the cure of corruption. Okay then, firstly, we should to know and understand the definition of corruption. What is corruption? Corruption is a form of dishonest and criminal offense that undertaken by a person or organization entrusted with a position of authority. Corruption also defined as the abuse of publicly or privately granted authority for private gain or benefit. Type of corruption. In the topic of corruption, is divided for two types of corruption. The first is petty corruption and the second one is grand corruption. Okay, what is petty corruption? Petty corruption is the corruption which are done on a small scale or the corruption which is done on the low level. For example, such someone take a place at the implementation and of public services, such as registration officers, police station, state licensing board, and else. Okay. The next type of corruption is grand corruption. What is grand corruption? Grand corruption is defined as corruption occurring at the highest level of government in a way that requires significant subversion of the political, legal, and economic system. Sources of corruption. In the topic of corruption, it have many causes and factors that provide to the criminal of corruption, such as law of press freedom. As we know, press freedom plays a role in the dissemination of bad norms such as crime and especially in the chapter on anti-corruption. Okay, next, law of education level also be a causes of corruption. It is because when the people of a country have a low level of education, it is not impossible for a country tend to be free to do bad thing without realizing it is a mistake. The economic problem. For economic problem, we touch about poverty in the countries. From a theoretical point of view, one expects corruption to increase with the rate of poverty. It is because poor countries tend to be unable to dedicate the resources needed to build effective system. The last chapter is about cure of corruption. How to cure the corruption? The first is media. Media should to place their role to be honest on their views, statement, and knowledge point and values, especially on the criminal of corruption. All of people should to increase their education level and knowledge. The government should to deal with problem of poor people in the countries, especially on their need for their life. Okay, the last one is the government should take a step for improvement on government system. That's all from me. I apologize if any mistake on my speech and presentation. If any problem, all of you can face personally to me or our group. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad LUQMAN bin AZMI. Inshallah, today I will present to all of you about prohibition activities in Islamic marketing, about Hilah. Okay, first of all, we go to definition. The definition of Hilah. The word al-Hilah, as Ibn Hajar explained in Fathul Bari, has the meaning all the means that lead to the purpose in hidden way, in a soft way. The means. Al-Hilah originates from al-Yahul Hawla, al-Hawl, wal-Hayl, wal-Hiwal, wal-Hilah, wal-Hawil, wal-Muhalah, wal-Ihtiyal, wal-Tahawul, wal-Tahil. Al-Misri, 1996. It means to deceive or to trick someone while knowing it is wrong. Sheikh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, indeed the general word al-Hilah, when directed according to the understanding of the scholars of jurisprudence, contains the meaning of deception or the way used to legitimize things that are forbidden, as the deception of the Jews. Okay, we go to legal authorities of Hilah. Allah said in Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter number 65, وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمُ الَّذِينَ اعْتَدَوْا مِنْكُمْ فِي السَّبْتِ فَقُلْنَا لَهُمْ كُونُوا قِرَدَةً خَاسِئِينَ. And you had already known about those who transgress among you concerning the Sabbath. And we said to them, be apes despised. In verse number 7, chapter number 163, and ask them about the town that was by the sea, when they transgressed in the matter of the in a Saturday, when their fish came to them openly on their Sabbath, and the day they had no Sabbath, they did not come to them. Thus did we give them trial, because they were defiantly disobedient. Okay, the third, technical meaning and scholarly opinions on al-Hilah. Sheikh Muhammad Ibn Ashur defines al-hilah as one's ability to intelligently portray or disguise an unlawful act and make it appear lawful in the eyes of Sharia without being noticed. It is illegal. Al-Asfahani defines al-hilah as an instrument used to achieve a goal secretly. Technically, according to him, al-hilah refers to a trick, being smart, intelligent, insight, and the ability to act in situations perfectly, or the ability to push through or exit cunningly from an enigma or difficult puzzle, while appearing ostensibly innocent from breaching the religious restrictions. Ibn al-Qayyim argues that in the traditionally accepted decorum and the widely customary uses and practices of al-hilah, the al-hilah has predominantly been attributed to character taint with a witty manner to outmaneuver the Sharia restriction or injunctions, so as to achieve an aim cleverly without breaching the Sharia ruling openly. To this end, al-hilah is mostly attributed to committing prohibited issues in the religion while employing undisputable, permissible means in disguise, which may be utterly accepted to the human reasoning or customs. Here we go to Hilah is a Jewish morality and habit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has explained in several verses that explains the moral of the Jews in this matter of deception. They are trying to change the laws that have been taught by their prophets, such as the curse and wrath of Allah Ta'ala when the Jews were forbidden to hunt on Saturday. On that day, many fish were obtained which were not obtained on other days. Then they put a net on the previous day and took the result on Sunday. It means they put a trap and net in Saturday, which is cannot do hunt in Saturday, but they put the trap and took the result on Saturday. This act is their deception, that is, by ignoring God's commands. Okay, the fifth, al-hilah in Bai' Bithaman Ajil, BBA. Bai' Bithaman Ajil, also known as Bai' Mu'ajjal, which means credit sale or sale with delay payment, is a type of sale that is the most widely used by Islamic banks and financial institutions, at least in case of Malaysia. BBA originates from contract known as murabahah. It is a sale and not a loan, but this is the sale with deferred payment. According to Mustafa Umar, BBA is a branch of murabahah where the payment of murabahah is deferred to a certain date agreed upon by both parties. Agreed by customer and bank. It is important to mention that BBA in its original theoretical form is fully valid contract. However, it seems that the theory and practices of BBA do not go hand in hand, as will be discussed shortly. Omar Chapra says this is a perfectly legitimate transaction according to the Sharia, provided that the risk for the transaction is borne by the financier until the possession has been passed to the customer. For such a transaction to be legal, the bank will have to sign two separate contracts one with the supplier and the other with the customer. It will not be lawful for the bank to have only one contract with the purchaser. The only service rendered by it being the remittance of the amount to the supplier on behalf of the purchaser. The bank will have to continue to be responsible until the goods were actually delivered to the customer, not necessarily by the bank, according with specification and other terms of the contract. It means bank have to uh, have two contract with the purchaser and with the uh, other contract supplier.
Okay, lastly for the conclusion, after we was discussed in detail the broad rule relating to the validity of Islamic transaction within the general framework of Islamic contract and specifically concentrate on the prohibited element. According, we focus on ihtikar, corruption and hilah activity because conformity again the dictates of the revealed law is a communal obligation and the prohibition set are obligatory we must avoid. Nothing that the most important Islamic virtues are prescribed at both an individual and at the collective level. Consequently, all Islamic financial transactions must be free from the element were prohibited by Sharia. Otherwise, transaction would be void. Atau Sharia enforce certain prohibition and impose unique structural requirement on the type of approval investment. I believe that this feature should be attractive to both the Islamic as well as any socially responsible investor, since the purpose of the above background is to emphasize that an economy and financial system driven by social welfare and socially responsible mandate will lead to advancing financial inclusion and to catalyzing and promoting real economic development. Islamic assign heavy responsibility on the human being, with just him being held accountable for any lack of development, and only him behind the reinforcement of social and economic empowerment. So only this from us. Thank you.